Hello, world. Welcome to D&D Beyond. Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, the newest D&D sourcebook, has been announced. It's available for pre-order now on the D&D Beyond marketplace. There's links aplenty. You'll get spooky pre-order goodies and instant access to the book when it's released on Amy Dallen's birthday on May 18th, 2021.
Such a nice present for just me that I will also generously share with you guys if you insist.
It's a national holiday.
Fun fact, all the books ordered will go to your house. That's just the way that it
shipping
works.
nightmare. Ooh, oh no. Oh, regrets.
So today we are talking about two concepts that have been advertised as appearing in the book that I really wanted to dig into because I just think they're so cool. The first concept is this concept of dark gifts for your characters, and then a little later we'll get into monsters of these domains of dread. So to do that, I am of course joined by future birthday girl Amy Dallen.
Hello, I'm so excited to be back and very excited because I knew I was going to be joining y'all and chatting, but I didn't actually know all the good stuff till this morning. So I am with you, audience. I am fresh in the full excitement of being like, tell me everything. Oh my God.
Yes, and also joining us, technical, also future birthday person,
Are we
Saige
all?
Ryan.
Hi. I want that to be my intro from now on. Everyone must introduce me with my birthday so everyone remembers. And I do accept Ravenloft-centric gifts.
I'm Joe Starr. I'm the content boy at D&D Beyond. I'm the face you'll be seeing on camera most of the time until I find someone better to do it most of the time, and then I'll just be here some of the time. Dark gifts, you guys. My favorite thing about D&D is characters with a dark secret, broken characters that would be doing okay except blank, characters with a blessing that's also a curse. Like it's my favorite stuff to play. This idea of dark gifts is coming up in the guide to Ravenloft. With this idea of gifts bestowed that give power at a cost, that are going to add a lot of flavor to your role play that is tied directly to these domains. I know that you two are huge fans of flavor for that role play. Saige, having a moment.
I'm having a real moment. The artwork is so good.
I love it. This is I would frame this on my wall.
Yes, right.
Love
also,
this piece.
I want the alt cover is wallpaper. The whole thing, the whole apartment.
It's so good.
So
So I'll say before we jump into things, this is pure speculation, baby. This is there's a single sentence in the press release that I have locked into and said this is the most important thing in my life, and we're going to talk about it for 20 minutes.
Oh heck yeah!
So let's jump into these dark gifts. The example that's been given to us at the press event for Guide was a pretty straightforward one, but it was tied to that image of the tiefling, just the straight up dark gift of being haunted, of having spirits and dark entities attached to you. So that's our starting point with this idea of dark gifts. Why is this idea, especially when it comes to horror, this idea sort of excite you guys, float your boat?
So I am somebody who, even when I try and write like a lighthearted, fun character, I cannot help but build an edgelord every time. And it's something that like in every game I play in, my friends clown on me for, because it's just something I do. I was like, oh, we're doing a lighthearted improv campaign. All right, cool. Great. She's a haunted one and a warlock. Ex-cultist. Sounds good. So I've played a lot of haunted one backgrounds. I've played a lot of like areas where you're taking a class and making it the spookiest it can be. But the idea of having something provided to me and something built in to enable me to be the spooky kid of my dreams in a D&D campaign is ideal, which is why I was so excited by like the new Unearthed Arcana that we got. Not unrelated, of like Hexbloods, of Reborns, of these undead kind of characters, Damphirs. I think that's what's so exciting about it to me, is having this space where everybody's kind of meeting me and where my head is anyways.
I
really what this
was
is all
joking around.
about.
I was like, Saige, you summoned this whole book into existence is all I can assume. I'm very excited for all of us, but also you.
Something
Thank
about
you.
this dynamic, what's going on with you two that Amy pointed out to me before we went live is so Saige, longtime D&D player, that obviously this is where you live. Amy, longtime D&D player that's never hit
I've never run Strahd.
This is gonna be your first taste of that sweet Strahd.
So I'm very excited because I was like, dark gifts, huh? That sounds awesome. So I was looking into it, obviously. And it's a beautiful idea. I'm very excited about the story possibilities. I got really interested in the parts of the description of this book that talk about doing horror at a range of levels and styles, which I love because I do love horror, but like I have a big soft spot for a kid-friendly horror story. I have a big soft spot for a goofy horror story, and I love that there seems to be so much room for that. But yes, also as a longtime RPG person, the ever-shifting balance of rules and story and how you weave them together for the maximum fun and potential is just basic RPG stuff, right? And so, you know, we back in the day when I first encountered the concept of taking a flaw, of sort of being like, here's a trade-off that will sort of do this for me, but force this on me or open these possibilities to me. It's just a great meaty concept. And the idea that and some of the Lineage stuff have of letting changes come to you during a game and letting those be reflected not just in your character choices, but in sort of in-game mechanical stuff that helps it to feel more real and ties it to theme and to consequence. It's just delicious. So yeah, I love that they are going to expand on that idea, and I can't wait to see, especially with all of the different domains, what every version of that could look like. But yeah, I mean, what's going to be wrong with a terrible bargain? That's a classic story idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, and you are kind of right. It offers a lot of, it's almost like offering the Warlock Pact in a way to a variety of characters. And I love the idea of, not just starting a new character, you know, that, okay, this is my level 1, this is part of their deal. They discovered a crossbow, and now the crossbow, it's possessed and it's part of them, and it talks. And if they ever put it down for too long, they fall unconscious, you know, whatever, like cursed crossbow, trademarked, that's mine, no one else can use it.
Sorry.
Curse of the Cursed Crossbow, mine. But also as a way to just refresh existing characters, because that's the cool thing about the horror genre is taking these tropes. You know, typically in a horror, you know, there's some very specific, you know, tropes. Hey, here's the jock, here's your final girl. But the idea of taking our fantasy tropes that, you know, I'll speak for me, most of my characters are, you know, pretty straightforward and based off of, and sort of putting them through the Siege Perilous Gate that is a dark gift, you know, and just giving them new life is so cool. There's got to be such a fun thing to be able to unleash.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really fun. I have a warlock I'm playing right now that's that her patron is an archfey. And there's definitely, she's a fallen Aasimar as well. So she has a lot of this like darkness to her. And I'm absolutely seeing.
You really are an edgelord, Saige.
I know, right? Who plays fallen Aasimars? Who's even doing that?
He's written purely by Zack Snyder. No, it's amazing.
Her wings don't work. They don't have flight speed. There's no reason for it. It's just for goth decoration. But I think in that character, there's such a cool opportunity potentially of like transitioning into making another pact as well. You know, finding and taking on these kind of things like with the undead pact, transitioning into taking on some kind of dark gifts and abilities that, you know, transitioning from a fey warlock to this dark consequential version of the character, I think would be such a fun transition.
That's such a cool thing to role play too. I hadn't even thought about that. How's a warlock going to feel? How's any character going to feel when they get passed off from one patron to another?
Yeah. Right?
Ooh, that's great. That's so
I
cool.
know, because like you sold your soul essentially. And like, that's something they can absolutely do. They can be like, I'm done with you and here you go. And you're like,
Yeah.
I'm
That's the
sorry,
resale
what?
value on those things. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
The
no.
resale value on your warlocks.
Yes, soul resale is absolutely a thing and
Mhm.
horrible. And now it's in my brain forever. Amy, what about sort of just this whole concept of dark gifts is really kind of jumping out at you? Like, what's the kind of thing that you're going to be trying to play? I know you sort of mentioned, the idea of, that family friendly or even just, comedic horror and stuff like that. How do you think it plays into stuff like that?
See, I love that. That's a side of it I will definitely be into, because it looking at sort of the existing dark gifts we have, which are sort of a small sample of the possibility. Like some of them correspond to sort of physical traits, which I'm curious to see ones that sort of play more to like things that affect how your character functions in the world or how you interact with stuff. And I'm really curious about that stuff, especially the part and Strahd vets, correct me, but like that in general, the existing dark gifts only work if you opt into the bargain. You just don't get to know all the details, right?
Right.
Which is really interesting, because that is different from like, I grabbed that dagger, turns out it's cursed. I chose this and now I have to live with the consequences is very, very interesting. But I'm curious, like I would love sort of, the ones with bumbling effects, the ones with suddenly can't understand certain things effects, the ones with have to pick a fight with people kinds of effects, I think would be the ones I'd be most interested in.
Yeah, no, well, and part of this is interesting to me because such a big thing that they've been discussing with this book with characters is, again, the idea of lineage, which they're exploring with, which they started exploring with this Unearthed Arcana, the Dampier, the Reborn. But I feel like the dark gifts thematically tie into that very well. What happens when you discover that you're you thought you were just this cool ranger that guards the desert. And then you discovered that, no, your grandfather, hunted demons and you're a part of that. You're locked into that legacy now, I think is really cool. I was going to say that his grandfather was the cursed crossbow, but I've decided to abandon the bit. But yeah,
you heard it, chat. Anyone can use the cursed crossbow.
Yeah, oh no, he's abandoned it. It's open source now.
As soon as we cut, I'm putting it into homebrew. That's where it lives. That's where it lives.
I think that's all really interesting in the sense of working it into your characters, because a lot of the time we have this issue, I think, finding campaigns where it's like, you don't want to kill your players. That sucks. Like there are those DMs and those games where like your character might die, but like for the most part, I, as a player and I, as somebody leading D&D, I don't want to kill my players. If they're attached to their character, I want them to be able to love it and be it forever. Mm-hmm. But adding the potential layer of that challenge of bringing back in, and a thing that I think that existed, but people weren't really taking advantage of, coming back, but with a consequence of a dark gift. And like with the Reborn class, it could be something kind of that's like Frankenstein's monster. It could be this like hodgepodge of putting your body back together, or it could be a matter of this, like your personality is entirely different now. And you get this opportunity now to play your character as this like layered version of that's like, you could be something else entirely, almost possessing the same body, Yeah.
And if you are one of those parties that's just like, let's see how quickly this next thing can kill us, imagine how much fun it's going to be. It'll be like, and then what's the next 3 sets of bad things that can happen after the first time we all died, you know? And now this gives you all these tools for that.
Yeah. And not to mention, and obviously these are always things that you could flavor in yourself. Right. But there's something, I don't know, there's also just something nice about having some official, like baked in mechanics that are just like, like a nice little like blanket that I can wrap around myself.
It's inspiring. It is.
Yeah.
It inspires me to push what my characters can do and take what they've given me and go, okay, but how do I make it even weirder?
Yeah. And there's been a lot of talk around this book about, a lot of guidelines and story hooks and things like that. Not guidelines is the wrong word, but guides. Let's just take the word lines. Who needs lines, right? Color outside.
No lines here.
Guides, of how to really start exploring, some of these ideas, safely with your table.
I'm strongly excited for that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really, really cool because, once you're on the same page with your party and how these dark gifts can start incorporating in and in affecting your gameplay style. You know, I think that even turns the whole idea of the basic like dungeon crawl and there's a treasure at the end on its head, because, you know, what if the treasure, go with me, there's a cursed crossbow.
Cursed crossbow, yes.
Did you want to get that treasure at the end, you know, or is it just gonna completely stick with you forever and ever and ever?
I'm absolutely the player that picks it up.
Yeah,
I mean, so many of us are, but like a bunch of my favorite, you know, fantasy books and other extremely famous stories, a lot of them deal with this idea of you can do this, but there's a cost, you know? I mean, like not in original observations, but rings, they could have power, and then there could be bad sides to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
there's been
like,
books about it.
Yeah, like Wheel of Time has a particular thing that I would love to see someone flavor as like a dark gift. There's a lot of really fun possibilities to, as always, steal liberally from fiction when you're putting this stuff together.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I think there's so many cool ideas and options that this adds to all players. I think you know, you don't have to be a Saige prototype Dark Lord character who's like, whenever people see me, they only see their failures, you know.
I'm not compensating for anything. I'm very tall. Don't worry.
We're going to get to the end of every Domain of Dread and it's just Saige in a different hat. Yeah. That's my prediction for this book.
In fact,
30 different Sages.
Because you see reaction, you know, if people are like, you know, that's maybe not necessarily like my play style or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be. That's what I think is cool about this, is like, this can, you know, if you're just straight up standard, like traditional high fantasy, we're going to see the high elves and they're going to turn their noses up at us, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like little bits of stuff like these dark gifts can just add so much dimension to that and really support what you like to do and how you like to play, which I think
absolutely.
is really
I think there's a very funny element to the way that you could bestow a dark gift as well. If it was something that like really bothers your character because your character isn't like dark and edgy, but maybe it's this thing that like possesses you and takes you over every once in a while and like, only dogs like this, you know? And you're just like, stop, I'm trying to, I have to save the princess. We're on our way. It's going to be fine. Like, let's stop here. And you're like, no, I don't want to.
Just full on goofy, like you can cast lightning bolt, but your favorite food tastes bad. And you're just like, oh, can't decide if that was worth it.
The worst dark gift of all. Things that affect my snacks.
I mean,
no.
Yeah. Sounds about right.